What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. I'm BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to be doing a lineup review show for week 10, I believe. Yeah, week 10. I keep getting the weeks mixed up. I'm out here in quarantine. Sheets is out there in New York. And it sounds like I'm in a pretty good spot considering how it's been a little bit rough out there these days, man. It's been rough across the country.
It's terrible. And New York, which is considered like one of the, I would say COVID safe states, but whatever. It's all I can say is in my particular universe of people, it's really bad. So everybody careful. Here's my one COVID rate. Okay, here's my one COVID rate. So for what I'm hearing from the kind of the anti-COVID people, or whatever you want to call it, the people who are not as big, think it's not a big deal. What I'll hear is people citing, well, the death rate is only this. It's not just people dying. Okay, like just because someone's not dying doesn't mean that it's not serious. I mean, I have one friend who's in the hospital with oxygen with whatchamacallit, with lost his sense of taste and smell. He's my age. Even if he's probably going to survive, I don't want it. I wouldn't want to be him. So it's not just a binary thing. Well, unless everybody's dying from it, then we shouldn't try to stop it, and there's so much room for in the middle, and not to get too dramatic, but actually, as I mentioned to Bobby off air, a friend of mine's father died of it in the last couple of days. But even without that, it's more than just death rate versus non-death rate. So in any case, there is definitely a second wave, and yes, great news about the vaccine, and hopefully by summer or fall, everybody will be vaccinated and everything will be a little bit better. But you got a long way to go until then, and everybody's got to really be careful.
Yeah. I share that sentiment, and obviously sorry for your friend's loss. That's a terrible thing.
In any case, what I'm from a DFS perspective, a couple of things I want to do. First of all, almost a freaking superhero with Abraham Answer last week, right?
That was a pretty sweet call, man.
That wasn't bad. Honest Abe was looking strong, and then he just, it's tough to close those things out.
It's tough to close out when DJ is playing like the best golf.
But not even that.
Like that. I think it's funny. We talk Sheets about how Bryce will just run away has the ability to. Matt Wolff has shown that ability in the past. We sort of skipped over the DJ doing that because it's so implied, when he's on. But I mean, that guy that was just out of control, and what a shot! But a great call on Answer there, and
in any case, what I'm doing this week, just so you know, I'm doing the same thing for all you spectators as I did last week with golf. I'm doing for football. So what I'm doing,
I love it.
Is already today looked at next week's slate without a single bit of content, projection, or anything, and just kind of built based on what I thought people should be. And then like tomorrow, I'm going to do an updated one where I get poisoned a little bit. And then Wednesday, poisoned a little more. And then but I'm not going to put anything out until the end. So maybe like late Thursday or early Friday, I'll put one video out that shows the stream of consciousness that gets me to the end.
I love it, man. I think those videos are great. I think they're great for people. People had a very good response to the last one. And I think this is a great thing to be doing going forward.
So but what we're going to do, let's look at this past week. We'll look at mine, and then if you want, look at yours.
I'll share mine afterwards too.
And the overall summary is that I went really, really chalky, maybe too chalky. I mean, too chalky, whatever it is. I just was convinced that Mike Davis just was never failing, and I put him in 100% of my lineup. I convinced myself that Aaron Jones was never failing. Convinced myself that Duke Johnson was, and this was probably the worst of them because of the win, that he wasn't failing. And I played like basically a lot of them. So, and then on GPPs, I got really lucky in that I played like a whole bunch of that Arizona game. And I had the back-to-back touchdowns between Diggs and the miracle Hail Mary that basically made me money for the week, but only by the grace of God or whatever. But let me pull up the 2+2 lineup first. And you're going to be surprised maybe with the results. Remember, now check this out. Top two get paid for the week. And look at that. By 0.84, I get in there for second place for the week. And with all these snowflakes.
Oh, my God. Hey, that's not a bad lineup for that type of situation, actually, because it was a rough day. And you had the Marvin.
Not too bad. So I was
Jones, but you.
So here's the deal. So I was this is what I had. I was dead set on Jones, Davis, and Duke Johnson. Okay, those were going to be my guys. And then I liked the Rams, which actually was really helpful. Then I liked the Rams, and I was between Kyler Murray and what's his name, and Josh Allen.
Mhm.
But what I ended up doing is I didn't want to be over correlated. So what I did was I put Murray with Diggs as opposed to Allen with Diggs, and or Murray with Hopkins. So that's just where I went. I went Murray with Diggs, and then I didn't know what to do with these last two kind of wide receiver spots. I had room for like 5K-ish wide receivers. I thought Darren Waller was a total lock. I wasn't getting away from him for anything, and he actually dropped like a 60-yard touchdown pass, which is a little annoying. But in any case, so I was between all these 5,400 guys, and I reached out to Bobby. I'm like, should I use Marvin Jones, Devontae Parker, Deontay Johnson, and then or DJ Moore, right? I think those are the four kind of that I was between. And the first thing that Bobby said is definitely DJ Moore. Okay. And then my question to him was, well, but should I use that in the same lineup with Mike Davis? Because I had him, he said, yeah, it really doesn't, that'd be fine. And then he says, well, probably Parker might be the best one. So I thought about this. I'm like, I'm not going to use DJ Moore because I didn't want the overcorrelation. And he smashed. That's fine. And I ended up using, I didn't use Deontay Johnson, and he smashed, right? But I used Parker, who wasn't that great, and I used Marvin Jones, who happened to smash also. So I ended up, because of that last Kyler Murray 6 points or 4 points from the touchdown and the Diggs, I snuck into second place for the week by 0.08. So I got paid for that.
That's
not
awesome.
bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, just to remind everybody out there, like, this is, it's a small group that they have the season long, but they get paid per week if they come in the top two. And it's a pretty high buy, and you can see some pretty great players out there.
Dude, and TJ is like the freaking nut player. He's great. He only got 112. Fantasy Flop's really good. I mean, all these guys are really, really strong players.
Who's up in the top two? Whoever that was is Ray.
And that's Ray. You know him, right?
Yeah, real good, obviously. All right. Well, I mean, I love
for example, like this was we could do some sneaky stuff because I know TJ usually puts his cash lineup in this usually.
It looks like a cash lineup to me.
And we were and this is what happens. We were very similar. He ended up with Lockett though instead of Marvin Jones, but because he paid down for Goddard, right? So he got Goddard and Lockett. And the Lions screwed him. So he got 4 as opposed to my 13 out of the Rams, I guess. But yeah, I think it was a tough week for people that wanted to play I won't say the good plays, but play the chalk. So that's where I ended up in the 2+2. Now, with respect to the, just so you know, with respect to the other ones, I was a little fortunate in that the bigger, and this makes sense, like the bigger the buy-in, like the better I did, right? And it makes sense when you have chalk. So I had 3 entries in this power sweep, and I cashed for both of them.
That's nice.
And then my biggest one, 152.
You had actually a big millionaire lineup.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. Yeah. And then in the SPY, the single entry, I did really, really well. Like a trip, whatever that buy-in was. So that was really good. So this was the best Millie Maker lineup. This is a 452, and as you might imagine, this got there at the end. But this one, and again, this was as logical and chalky as I was going to get to, right? So this one happened to have Murray with with Hopkins, and it had the double run back on the Buffalo with Beasley and Diggs. And this had DJ Moore at 3%.
I know the DJ Moore ownership. Got me excited. It was weird because most projection system had it as the best point per dollar play on the slate, even including Davis. It was pretty weird. But Jordan Reed. I mean, like, if you could have gotten anywhere above 7 points for 8 points from your tight end, you were in shape yesterday. There was not a lot to pick from there. So it's a pretty nice lineup, and my overall leverage was actually I had 40% Rams, which worked out to be really, really good, actually. Considering they were 8%, and they scored 13. Now, just for the hell of it, I always like to go look. By the way, a shout out to a former horse of mine, by the way, who got second in the Millie Maker. Oh my God!
Randers, and he plays. He plays DFS. He watches. I think when we started doing content, like Sheets doing DFS content, whatever it is. And from what I remember from him, he could really use it, you know. So
That's
good
awesome.
for him. And it's not like he had a chance to win. Like before, I didn't want to congratulate him either, because whenever you congratulate someone for coming in second when a millions are first, it
Oh,
might not be it
yeah.
might not be in good form to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still obviously a nice win, but it's pretty painful. The only thing he could take some solace in is maybe that he wasn't going to win that tournament. I think any which way. I remember seeing the guy in first. I didn't have a way he wasn't going to get there.
Never. And he benefited from the Hopkins one at the end and the dig, so he got just as lucky as the other guy did, who had Hopkins. Actually, this other guy didn't even have digs with that other touchdown. So yeah. I mean, you weren't. I mean, nobody was beating.
Yeah. This brings up an interesting point. I mean, looking back at it, obviously it's easy to say now, but see, it's funny because I actually thought initially when I looked at it, I was like, oh, there's all these running back options. You know what I mean? But then I started thinking about how many did I really like as options. And by the way, I didn't particularly like Kamara as an option, but you can get him in there easily. It wasn't a specifically standout matchup for Kamara. He happened to get in the end zone 3 times. You know what I mean? What are you going to do?
I happen to be really good at this. So I happen to be really good at being objective of what we said and what we thought, right? And the one guy that I'm a little steamed that we didn't do. I didn't do more of. You maybe did was DeAndre Swift. Okay?
I had DeAndre Swift 21%.
Oh well, there you go. So you acted on it and I didn't. Okay, so that was because that's definitely a guy that we literally talked about. That I even said this was the one guy from that game I liked, and he was really. There were 2 running back pivots that I really was interested in. One of them was DeAndre Swift, and the other one was Jamal Williams. And I don't think Jamal Williams did anything, but DeAndre Swift certainly did. And the other one, again, that ended up was a good play that we talked about that I just didn't play was Josh Jacobs. Okay.
We talked about that's the one I feel like we missed on a little bit because if we would have factored in the ownership and all things considered, because you had everybody playing Aaron Jones, and we know that can be a volatile situation with Jamal Adams getting some touches, obviously. We also have Kamara, who's so much more expensive, as another pay up. And then you've got, what's his name? James Conner, who hasn't had a game all year. So James Conner was mostly my pivot off of the other chalky guys. But I wish I would have gone with Jacobs because it sort of hit me a little too late in the day, and I got him into a couple lineups. But it wasn't anything that had a real chance. And I just felt like maybe we could have used the ownership in our favor because nobody really stood out other than Aaron Jones as having a great matchup. And he was going to be so high owned, we could have easily pivoted at least a good portion of our ownership of them off.
But just to show what my ownership was, and again, I don't know why they do it this way on DK, but it spreads it out across all my lineups and not just like per tournament, right? So it counts all the same. But just to show you, I mean, I had 100% Mike Davis. I had 45% Kyler Murray. What are the other quarterbacks I had? Where's Josh Allen? Josh Allen, 38%. So I was really, really concentrated in all of that. I don't even know who else I had. Bridgewater. I had some Bridgewater, some Breeze. And then the other ones, like I said, I mean, better or worse, I got a little poison. I ended up with 100% Mike Davis. And again, looking back is easy. But I kind of just knew going in that having 85% Duke Johnson was not the idea, especially with the wind the way it was over there. Just the weather was so shitty that even though like he's just a running back, I mean it's just a bad environment to play people in,
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I ended up I didn't play much Duke Johnson, but it's interesting because I look at some of the ownerships here and I like a lot. I mean, I like a lot of these plays. Obviously, there were a lot of ones we talked about, and you really did commit and. Who's that? Oh, the Duke. I mean, also he could have. I mean, the 5 points is just kind of ridiculous, and the Mike Davis thing. But you could get away with more of that stuff yesterday, just because there was so much. Everybody sort of struggled. And then my problem is I played 50% Miles Sanders, who actually played a pretty good game, but Boston Scott got the big play, which it's one of those where you hear it. I had it on, and I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, and I hear the Mike Davis play. I'm sorry, I hear the Boston Sky there. He breaks free, for a run of 53 for a touchdown. And that would have put me pretty much in great shape throughout the rest of the day. But it turned out it was Boston Scott, not Miles Sanders. So that was unfortunate. But I like that you're one thing that's different is that because you're not playing a million lineups, you do keep a tighter core. And
I had 20 lineups. This is what I did. So I did 20 lineups in the Millie Maker. I did 20 lineups in the 20 Max. And then I did 3 lineups in the 3 Max and a single entry. So it really wasn't that, that many lineups.
Right. Right. No, exactly. But still, though, I like that it's more targeted, more focused. And it's funny because, you only had Beasley 4%, but your best lineup had Beasley in it. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
you were trying.
Yep.
And I was talking a lot with some good friends over the weekend about this stuff, like especially last night. Everybody's sort of frustrated because of how the day went, because I think everybody plays some chalk and all this stuff. And everybody's, there was good points. For the most part, we're not talking about the plays. We're looking for the environment, the storyline.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really what you focused on. You have the Murray and all the Murray and Allen and the receivers. And if you stick with that, you're pretty good shape. My problem was I ended up going a little bit higher on Christian Kirk than I initially had planned to, because I started wanting to buy into these other receivers. And I fell in love with the Rams Seattle game far too much, especially on the Rams side. I played a ton of Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. And by the way, if you showed me the first drive, even though they only scored a field goal, I think they both had it was like 9 and 7 fantasy points. And then I don't think they scored another fantasy point for like another 2 quarters. It looked like it was going to be, just exactly what you want, just a bunch of peppering out to them, just like everybody does. But, the Rams played a friendly conservative game style and ran the ball a lot more, which Seattle is like, to me, it's like doing them a favor, but it's okay because they won the game anyway. But obviously it hurt for DFS purposes. I do like that you threw guys like AJ Brown, like Antonio Brown in there. I think going forward, he's a guy we need to look at as being one of the top priority plays going for the rest of the season.
And I will tell you, by the way, that Antonio Brown, it's funny before you bring that up, is the one guy that I literally forced into lineups.
Yeah, I like it.
He didn't show up on a single run. And then I'm like, and I was just thinking, I just need him. I just need him. I need him in there. I have some Mike Davis, have some Carolina guys. And if Antonio Brown scores 3 touchdowns and have 200 yards, I'm not going to be surprised, and I'm going to be sick to my stomach if I don't have it. So that's why I played. I literally forced him.
Right. No, I like it. Anyway, I think going forward, you're just going to see that they have a lot of weapons on that team, but in my opinion, he's the best one, and he's not priced like the best one at the moment. So, real quick, I'll jump over to mine after this. I love I really wish I didn't listen to too much of the weather, because Deontay Johnson was a huge priority play for me, and then completely went by the wayside when I saw the weather in Pittsburgh.
I watched that Pittsburgh game, right? I had Pittsburgh and a bunch of survivors, and I was watching that game. I have a couple of observations from that game. First of all, the wind was totally freaking was swirling. It was like you looked at people's uniforms. It was a disaster. And I have 2 observations. Number one is Pittsburgh is really good. Okay. Mm-hmm. I have another observation, is that Joe Burrow is really good.
I agree totally, 100%.
It was an impossible spot yesterday, but he made some really tough throws in some tough wind conditions against a tough freaking team. He is really, really good. That's the other comment.
For the haters out there that would say, "Oh, look what he used 21 for 40 and did this." It doesn't matter. You're sizing someone up, and also look what this Pittsburgh defense has made everybody look like. You know what my hot take was for the week, because I really watched this game and I've been watching them lately. And Sheets, I don't think you're gonna agree with me here, but my take is that the Giants are much, much better than people think, and I've been noticing this for a while. They've been extremely competitive in some very tough games. The one against Tampa Bay stands out as one of those games. They lost a lot of games, and it's usually because of a couple turnovers by.
Excuse me, you're not going to get me to disagree with you. I've been like trying to beat them in Survivor every week, and every week's a freaking stress. Or I've been rooting for them. Like they barely lost to the Rams. They were down 1 point in the fourth to the Rams. They were up 2 touchdowns to the Eagles the first time they played in the fourth quarter. They were up on Tampa going into basically the last drive, and they basically, I guess, handled Philadelphia. To this week and it's like annoying because they're trying just hard enough to like never get a first round draft pick and never get a number 1 pick. You know.
I don't know. If I was a Giants fan, I actually feel relieved because I haven't seen them play this hard in a number of years. And the Giants are one of those teams that I see, unfortunately, too much because they're always on national TV. On those, sort of like the Bears this year. You know what I mean? We get a lot of the Bears like tonight. Anyway, if you don't mind, real quick, if you stop your screen share, I'd love to jump over and just maybe get your thoughts and sort of show what I was trying to do. Now I played more lineups.
And the other thing before we go on, it's not lost on me, by the way, that. And again, but you forget about this after a while, that all the decent Giants performances are all with no Saquon Barkley.
Right. It's the Ewing theory. The Knicks got better after Ewing,
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I'm more of like kind of like the simpler approach. I'm like,
No,
they're just good.
it's an
They
old
can
Bill.
survive this well without him. Let's get him back. And then we
No,
really
no, I totally agree with you. But it's an old Bill Simmons thing, and there's a million examples of it going back. It happened more in college basketball than anything. Every time a team would lose their best player, somehow they'd still go to the title game. A great example is it happened with Butler after Gordon Hayward held them left. You know what I mean? Gordon Hayward they're in the title game the next year. They were there when he was there too. But anyway, but yeah, and then because they went to the finals the year after when the year Ewing got hurt. Anyway, just to go real quickly through these things. I played too much Aaron Jones. I was trying to get away from him. I just couldn't. I didn't really like the running backs. And for the most part, you'll see a few running backs in the flex spot. But when I did that, I was trying to get the weird middling guys that didn't.
Well, if you don't mind, can we rewind for a second? So what am I looking at? Like, how many lineups did you play? Like, what?
So I played 20 in the millionaire. I played 3 sets of 20 in the different 20 maxes.
Okay.
I played 3 in the 150.
Okay.
I played all 5 in I love that 33 5 entry max $33 tournament. Those are the ones I like. That I tend to focus my, and they're not my best ones, but like I treat them the way I would usually treat the 333s. But I'm not playing quite as heavy these days. So I also feel like it's a harder season to have a feel for. But we were right on some things. I wanted to my issue was, you can see DK Metcalf obviously destroyed me with 21%. That's just a killer on it right there. James Conner, I went 17%, which doesn't sound like much, but it was significantly over the field, trying to get away from some of that Aaron Jones. That was what I started to go to towards the end. I couldn't get a tight end right to save my life, whether it be Ebron, Ingram, Waller. I tried a number of them because I thought there was potential, but I didn't there was just nothing there. John Brown, I guess he missed the last couple of things. I don't know what he would have ended up with, but he had a chance at one point to look like he was going to have a pretty decent game. He was pretty high on my list. I went crazy high on Mike Davis, which is crazy high for me because it's large. It's a lot of lineups. It still ended up being 120 odd lineups or 140, whatever it was. I don't know exactly. But Miles Sanders was my favorite play. Just in all fairness, going in, I really thought they'd run the ball well, and they did. He just didn't get the big breakaway touchdown play. That's basically all that happened. And Carson Wentz was so bad that they couldn't move the ball down the stretch towards the end of the game. So I'm okay with that one. I'm okay with being wrong about Michael Thomas at a cheap price. I had at one point like 45% DeAndre Hopkins, and I know he got it lucky at the end or whatever you say, but obviously it would have been nice if I had left a little bit more of that in there. And I kind of came off of it going more a little bit the Kirk route, who I initially had 0 of and ended up actually with him more in my high buy-ins, with Kirk more in my high buy-ins and Hopkins more across the board because of ownership. And then, look, I like you can see, I really played like roulette a little bit with the tight ends outside of Waller because I didn't feel good about anybody, but I felt like there was a lot of potential. So I sort of just, spread out there. I was initially locked into Keenan Allen. I'm glad I came off of some of that. DJ Moore, obviously these games looked like they could have been better games, but the real thing is the guys who I felt good about was I had a good amount of Swift and Gibson together because that's what I decided to do where I wasn't playing Davis. Okay. So those felt like they had some real hope early on anyway. They just never quite got there for enough, you know what I mean? But that's what my sort of thinking was. I also went with a ton of Kenyon Drake, and I totally stand by this play. Kenyon Drake was 0.4% owned, okay? Kenyon Drake carried the ball 18 times for 100 yards and just didn't happen to have the touchdown, 16 times for 100 yards. Didn't happen to have the touchdown variance.
Wow.
What's that? And he's 49.
Wow, I didn't even know this.
Yeah, because he was a question mark at the beginning of the day, and all the 5K guys were in the morning, so everybody played the morning guys. So I only did it with 14% of my lineups, but looking back, it was a really good pivot move, even though his numbers he didn't have a monster production game. But honestly, that's a little bit just because of variance. He just wasn't on the right side of the touchdown equity. They ran the ball in twice. He was not the guy who got those touchdowns. It was Kyler both times. So anyway, it's I liked some of the late substitutions I made. And 2 of my big lineups, they weren't, they didn't lead me to anything, but I played that guy Salvon from Miami at minimum cost, the running back from Miami, the new guy, because they announced Jordan Howard and Matt Breida were out. So Salvon, here, let's find his name. I only had him 2%. Salvon Ahmed.
Oh my God, look at that guy.
And he's minimum cost, and he put up 16. So if you just played him instead of Davis, you'd be in pretty sweet shape. In fact, in this particular lineup, Kupp obviously kills it, but this one, at one point, I felt like going into the second half of the day, I had a chance. Kupp and Wilson killed it. I just focused too much on that game, and that's really what ended up doing me in. I really thought that the Rams' passing attack was going to go nuts. I thought they were going to use it to open things up. Nope, they ran the ball for all their touchdowns, and it just didn't do enough good for me. So,
well, that was the interesting thing. We not to say that you shouldn't have done that, but that's the one thing we talked about in the show was that I was saying that you talked me off of it a little bit because I was saying that, yeah, it's weird that Seattle gives up a lot of passing yards, but the Rams don't seem to want to pass the ball. And I said, but you know what? My numbers say that the Rams are probably the best play, and I'm going to get them with a low-owned option. And you're like, what are you, out of your mind? They're going to be like the chalkiest player on the slate. I'm like, oh, forget it then. So I just got myself off it.
And they were even, though. They were popular.
I know.
But what I did is I decided to go ahead of that popularity. So it got even worse for me. I went ahead of them on all that nonsense. So anyway, I really, look, some good plays. It was an ugly week in general, but just a lot of the wrong combinations. I wish I could have gotten one of my Swift Gibson things semi-home, and I wish I would have played a little bit more Kamara, who I literally faded out of almost all of my lineups. What did I end up with in that? And I just decided, I had 9% or whatever, but that kills you. And I had Josh Jacobs. You don't have Josh Jacobs. If you get these two guys right, like you're going to have a big week. I don't even know if I had Jacobs.
So I had 4% Alvin Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 2 Alvin Kamara lineups I had, neither of them cashed.
Oh man!
I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way that those things, the lineup occurs sometimes. Just real quick to show what I was saying though about the 33. I'm just gonna go to. 33.
Oh, and one last thing, by the way, about my lineups. Again, like something I listened to you and someone I was a little stubborn. I had 10% of a quarterback that you said, Eric, you're not allowed to play him, and I played him anyway. I played 11% Derek Carr.
Oh.
Where you begged me not to play him, but I saw this Waller. I'm like, I gotta get a little bit of Carr with him, and not surprisingly, they all busted.
Yeah. Oh man. Anyway, so these are like my 5. Like I actually cashed in 3 of these lineups, but like the 5 max and all that stuff. I wish there was more 5 maxes, even like higher buy-ins. I would like that.
It's interesting, the 5 max, right?
Yeah, it gives you a little bit of range to do some different things, and it also allows you to narrow your pool and not having to go so far off the board. So I did stay a little bit more to the stuff. I had Swift in here, I had Marvin Jones, which worked out well. McLaurin, I ran back on the other side with Gibson a lot of the time. I played McKissick. I ended up with about 11%, I think, McKissick. I really did like both those running backs. With Alex Smith playing, I really thought there was a chance for both of them to have big games, so I wanted to get a little bit of a mix of both. You see Salvin Ahmed here at 4.4%. Which was a little bit of a bold call there, but and it's not a huge buy-in, but I'm just saying it's a 3rd tier level buy-in, or 4th tier because I guess the single entries. But it's still like, I'm treating this like I would my 5 core things would be built and come down from this. Anyway, so some good plays, some bad plays. Jakeem Grant, I was hoping for a big game out of because I ended up getting almost 20%.
Yeah.
But, I didn't get the afternoons guys right, and I deserved to lose for this one. But I also felt like there was a lot of things that we pointed out in the right direction.
Do you still play on? Do you play on FanDuel at all, or no?
I did play on FanDuel, actually. I played one lineup because I forgot about it. I stopped playing as much on it because I actually cashed my only lineup on FanDuel. But I was just I totally had forgotten about it to the last minute because I got so tired of it with the when it wasn't working, and I hate not being able to tell what's happening. And there's plenty of tournament options on DraftKings. But I actually kind of like the way I used to do really well on FanDuel because I felt like I always built DraftKings all week. And I would sort of just take the plays I liked. And obviously you have to shift them over because of the non-PPR and the different pricing. But for the most part, I kept things fairly similar and just stuck to the guys I like. And the ownership differences would usually be drastic because if you don't pay that much attention to the salary. Yeah, this is the one lineup I played on FanDuel yesterday, which actually did well. Yeah. But well enough to cash in these single with top whatever 1%. But it's pretty hard to imagine that a 122 is actually in the top 1% of a tournament. That's pretty surprising to me. But anyway, that's sort of, you can see what my thinking was. I wanted to play Murray and I wanted to play Diggs and Hopkins, and that's basically the only reason why those late touchdowns and Deontay Johnson were the reason they cashed.
So I ask you this again. Maybe we'll do it for next week. I ask you this again. I ask you this from time to time. Like, so when you build your lineups, when you build 20, I guess you could build, just totally by hand, right?
I'm all by hand at the moment because I've gotten too many weird pieces in my scripts, and I have to wait to do the script till literally 8:30 on Sunday morning or 11:30 a.m. Eastern because there's so many late injuries and there's so many things that I've gotten a little bit away from scripting a little bit because it was hurting my early game. I felt like I would have too many weird blips in my thing that I just didn't edit out from my earlier script.
All right, so I think this is a good. I think we did well. I think it was a good lineup review, and then we can, if you want, we can do a showdown if you want.
Quick one for Monday Night Showdown?
Yeah, sure.
That's good. All right. I'm going to hang this one up, and then we will be right back with you in a minute. All right, guys. Hey, for everyone out there, hope you had a good week. Send us any of your results. We love to hear the good stuff, whether we're on it or not. And Sheets, anything else before we get out?
No.
All right, guys. Good luck to everyone out there. We'll talk to you soon.